Good morning and welcome to PWR Today. It's Friday morning, May 29th, 2020, along with the man they call Matthew Thomas. It's the man they call Meathead. Thanks for stopping by. Hey, before we get started, I want to tell you right about our show. Make sure you're heading on over to YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Fight TV. Check us out. Make sure you're giving us a like, giving us a subscribe. That way you know when new content comes from us. Last night, we just had primetime with Hurricane Helms, and we got another primetime coming up tomorrow night right here on all your favorite channels. So, again, a like and a subscribe, help us out, and that way you'll be kept in a loop on when new content's coming around. So, Matthew Thomas, good morning. It's Friday morning. It's kind of our regular thing now. We talk every Wednesday morning and Friday morning. How's that feeling for you?
Oh, it feels fantastic. And that intro, Meathead, reminded me a little bit of my shoe collection. You want to know why?
Why, because it stunk?
Because I've got a lot of platforms as well.
You know, my kids made me Google dad jokes this morning. And it was the top 60 dad jokes you could find. Most of them were not appropriate for a 6 and a 5-year-old because they didn't get the references. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to talk about dead and funerals, but there were some really good ones in there. Like, how do you make a Kleenex dance?
How do you make a Kleenex dance?
You got to put a little boogie in it. So that one I enjoyed, but the rest of them, they weren't all that funny, really. But Piper loved it. So, and Brindley just goes, "What?" And then she tried to retell the joke. It was actually pretty cute.
Fantastic.
So, not to go on and on about my kids, let's talk about our baby, which is professional wrestling. And what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to start with episode 3 of the 5-part series of the Undertakers The Last Ride. Matthew, have you seen it?
I did, and I personally thought this was the best episode of the series so far.
Expound.
I think by this point, you're in episode 3. You are starting to really, with me, the first couple of episodes.
Are you getting the meat of it?
You're getting the meat. You're right in the middle of the sandwich. Yes, you are. I think the first couple of episodes, it is still a little bit of that shock and awe of being this far behind the curtain of The Undertaker. You're still trying to process this character that has been protected for so many years, despite all of the documentaries, despite all of the books, the one gimmick, the one character that has been protected. You're still trying to process, what you are being allowed to see. To me, by episode 3, you're really starting to take the journey. If it was a work of fiction, you would be starting to take that journey with the character. In this case, you're starting to take that journey with Mark Calaway, because here's the thing. As long as Taker has been around, as long as we've been watching him, this is really our first introduction to Mark Calaway as a person with that guard dropped. And so at least with me, with this episode, you're really starting to empathize with what this guy's going through. So for me, the series at episode 3, I think they've really hit their stride.
So did you empathize with him when he kept dogging out the trainer when they were playing, was it spades or were they playing cribbage?
Oh, it was one of those card games. I'm not a big card
person.
Gin.
They were playing gin. That's what it was.
Fish is pretty much the extent of my card knowledge. That's right.
That's your speed? No, when they were playing gin, you've got Kane in the background going, you don't like to lose. I mean, and that's really the benchmark of a lot of, professional athletes. I mean, I'm not a professional athlete by any means. The only thing that I was professional was once I was paid to get off the softball field. But you could see, I mean, the competitive nature. Think about a Michael Jordan, for example. He just, has to compete. Charles Barkley, that is terrible. They have to compete. Taker's the same way. So he does not like to lose. But, he was getting kind of hot. Game's getting a little out of control. And Kane's just sitting in the background, just living it up. I mean, having a good time watching him play cards.
That's a very good comparison to make, and also, too, I think a lot of people are watching this around the same time they're watching The Last Dance, and just seeing the similarities there between two people at the top of their profession, being it Taker and Jordan. There are similarities there as far as whether it be a game of cards or whether it be, it was something Jordan was playing in one of the locker room clips. He was playing with the trainer as well, too. I think some, innocent little game, but it doesn't matter how big the odds are or how small of a little game it is, no money, just playing for pride, that sense of competition, that competitiveness takes
Mhm.
over. It takes over.
I do understand it. Like I said, not a professional athlete by any means, but I've been known to be a little bit too serious on some things. But it's that competitive drive, man, that, kind of drives. I'm not saying that I'm an alpha by any means, but we're looking at alphas, and that's what drives them. That's what drives an alpha, personality. And alpha doesn't necessarily mean male. The alpha, as in the lead dog. When it comes to somebody that's just, go, 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 go. There'll be a day where I stop, but right now I'm always a go, go, go person myself. So, yeah, card games, or you could be playing pinochle, or shenanigans, whatever you're playing. Got to be the winner all the time. I don't, even to my kids. And again, we said we weren't going to do it, a moratorium on the kids, but I won't let them beat me in any games.
And here's the thing too, what you're seeing with Taker, that type of personality, yes, it's external as far as the competitiveness of games or the industry that you're in, but I think you're also seeing a lot of that competitiveness internal with the story that this documentary series is telling, in the fact that he wants that perfect moment. He wants that perfect last match. He wants that perfect narrative and story. And when it doesn't feel right, when for whatever reason, whether the reason be the match doesn't go like he wanted it to, or the match goes very well and he feels like he's got another one or two or three or four or ever how many more in there, those personality traits, when turned, internal, that's the type of stuff that tends to happen.
And and again, now that you said that, it really kind of rang true for me. No wonder I really buy into this documentary, because I'm not a professional wrestler. I'm not, but I understand the competitiveness, the quest for perfection, because that's really what he's doing.
Yeah.
We started off when we talked about the first episode, and the first time you and I talked about it, you felt bad at some point.
Right.
You weren't pity, it wasn't empathy, it wasn't sympathy, but you're like, brother, it's okay. You don't need to give us anymore. Just come home. We don't need you to hurt anymore. We don't need that. I understand where he's coming from as well, because, he's striving for the perfection. That is honestly, me personally, that's my goal in life. While I'll never reach perfection ever, I know that. I know that I have to keep working towards it.
And I think what has really evolved as this series has progressed, it is most certainly not a case of somebody who, quote unquote, not knowing when to hang it up. It is almost more of a compulsion, almost an obsession of the perfect last match. When is the right time? What does it have to look like? All the chips have to be in exactly the right place. So as this thing is going on, you're seeing a glimpse into almost a type of obsessive compulsiveness.
I was going to say OCD. You're my obsession. You're my obsession. Mm-hmm. Do you want that perfect match with somebody on the mid card? You're my obsession. Sorry.
And so, with that being said, I kind of want to just kind of re-steer it a little bit and ask you, what do you think, what in your eyes, as a fan, as an analyst, what do you think is the fitting end for Taker at this point? Say there's one more. Say there's one more match. Say it's WrestleMania next year, one more left. What does that look like to you?
It's WrestleMania. He is in the best shape he's been in 5 to 10 years. Hips are feeling good. Back is feeling good. Knees are good. Elbows good. He can move. He can work. He gets one more match with Brock Lesnar, and he goes over. That's the quintessential match right there. He exorcised his demons, gets the win at WrestleMania, and he hangs it up.
Well, and here's the thing, and let's look back and see where we're at in the Last Ride series. Has that pretty much been glossed over, Meathead? Because we're now in the stuff in Saudi, so we haven't really gotten the series of matches with Lesnar, right? We got 30, but they really haven't touched on the series where we had Hell in a Cell.
Come back to it.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. But right now I know the preview said that they're going to talk about the Goldberg match.
Yeah.
And, when we talked to Dave this last week, We talked about how it was somebody's fault, because the match didn't look good. Was it Taker's fault? Was it Goldberg's fault? Was it the popcorn vendor's fault? It was somebody's fault because the match didn't look good. And that, I understand. Again, I understand where he comes from, where I can't leave it on that because that just wasn't good. I can do better than that. Whatever you do in life, for example, Matthew, you're you're like a male dancer or something, a pole dancer or something that sells lots of, nutritional stuff. But, and what I do, I strive for perfection every day. I've never thought that, I've done 100% at any point. And they're like, wow, why don't you slow down? I'm like, I'm sandbagging, to be honest with you. I can do 100% better than this.
Right. No, it's I really do think coming out of this series, the lens through which we look at future Undertaker matches, I think it changes quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it really changes. And it's going to be very interesting. We've got 2 more episodes, I believe, to go. There's a little bit of a break. I think the next episode, not airing this Sunday, I believe airing the following Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. So they're going into a little bit of a break there. But
that makes sense because this Sunday we don't have any kind of network event pay-per-view action. But following Sunday we do have NXT In Your House Takeover, and then the week after that we do have the Backlash pay-per-view. So.
No, can you clarify the number that I need to call or the address that I need to mail my postcard to in order to win the house?
It's a phone number. It's actually 900-909-9900. Get your parents' permission. $2.99 the first minute, 99 cents each additional minute.
That number sounds familiar.
Give it a call.
Fantastic.
I think that's the In Your House hotline. So, it's funny that we kind of touched on this, and I haven't heard it from anywhere else. I haven't seen it written anywhere else. Is somebody who strives for perfection possibly dealing with a small, minimal case of OCD? We're not doctors. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a doctor by any means. I'm not even a Dr. Style, a Dr. Funk. I'm not a Dr. Pepper or a Dr. J, but to me, it reads like OCD. We kind of struck gold on that one, Matthew.
Yeah, no, that's exactly... As I'm seeing more and more of this, and again, like I said, I think anybody who tries to function highly in whatever field they're in or whatever they do in their daily life, I am definitely seeing a lot of that there. And my goodness, it explains so much, when you look back at the last handful of years and you're like, okay, this is kind of a surprise, at this special event or this event in Australia or Saudi Arabia, and it's like wow, it's going after it's one-upping the last one. It's kind of leaving or not even leaving. I think a lot of these, the impression that I'm getting, it's just getting to a point where he seems to be able to feel good about the last match he was in. And it seems like more often than not, that is leading to another match because, the performance is good. And I think Triple H really hits nail on the head when he talks about what a vicious cycle that it becomes.
Exactly.
What a double-edged sword, because you either do not perform to your expectations and you got to have another one to forget about that, or you do perform to your expectations or beyond. You got a taste for it. What does this give me another one? So it is such an
like a hit of dopamine is what it is.
Exactly.
It's like a hit of dopamine. And then you have to take that and kind of extrapolate that a little bit and go over to like Shawn Michaels, who is content not doing it.
Yeah.
Where you've reached that piece. I really was struck by Triple H's words, obviously, that you just talked about, but Edge and Shawn Michaels as well. Now, we shouldn't talk about Edge because here's Edge back. I mean, this would have been different if Edge would have stayed gone.
No, absolutely. And, that's just, it's interesting too, watching this, a lot of the Edge interviews are most likely done over the last several years and kind of seeing where his statements were then versus where they're at, currently.
Yeah, absolutely, because I assume that they were probably done over the last 2 to 3 years. So there you got Edge talking about, I'm in a good place. I hope he gets that finish because, not only have they lived that life, they've been able to maybe go through that dopamine withdrawal, the crowd reaction. Taker says it himself. There's nothing like it in the world to get that pop from 75,000, 80,000, 90,000, whatever, to, get that pop from the crowd to, the excitement of the crowd, the roar of the crowd. I wish Taker could get it. I kind of am in the same spot with Edge and, Shawn. I wish Taker could find that final match, because it becomes like an irritant, really, when you have something wrong. Again, I understand this a little bit. It becomes like an irritant where, I did great, but boy, I sure could have fixed that part. I'd like to do that better. So you ask the question, the really loaded question, what is the match? What is that one that's going to give him go, I did it. That's it. I did it. It's over. It's kind of like two mortal enemies, fighting through time. When they lose that enemy, what after that? Because that was their life purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, hearing you work through that, I know you said earlier, Taker and Lesnar. I'm not so sure after hearing you say all of that, Meathead, that you just didn't sell me on Taker and Edge.
Has Edge had a match with WrestleMania 24? We were both there.
We were there. Yep. Yep. And it was the, back when there, well, I guess there is a brand split again, but it was the last SmackDown match to close a WrestleMania to the best of my memory.
Yeah. No, what am I talking about? We were there. Of course there was an Edge Taker. They closed out the show that night.
That was
Edge
the famous,
coming in as champion. Yeah.
That was the famous Charles Robinson sprint down the aisle.
Yes, it was. He ran 90 yards at 57 miles an hour. I mean, you've got Tariq Hill from Kansas City. He's got nothing on good old Chuckles. Charles Robinson flew, and because of his long, flowing blonde hair, I mean, he looked like just a whisper in the wind.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He looked like a cool breeze.
How did we end up getting to Charles Robinson flowing through the air with his hair just flowing? How did we get there?
I think it makes sense. I don't know why we wouldn't have gotten there.
Wow. So we worked from talking about Taker to flowing Charles Robinson here. I mean, I think that's really what PWR is in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that single-handedly encompasses what we strive to be.
Folks, make sure this is how we're ending our week with you is, Matthew and Meathead waxing, poetically about Charles Robinson flowing through the wind. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're liking Facebook, YouTube, Fight TV, Apple Podcast, all sorts of places to check us out. Again, this content is free to you. You don't have to pay for any of this stuff. You get free Matthew, free Meathead on Monday mornings. I think we're doing Linda Kay. Tuesday mornings, Dave Hero. Wednesday mornings, Matthew. Thursday mornings, Damien. Friday mornings, Matthew again. And speaking of Damien, I think we've got about a minute left here. How about that no-sell from last night?
Oh my goodness!
Yesterday morning.
Yeah, it's selective amnesia, huh? So a combination of selective amnesia and hiding behind all of these consultants and lawyers. My goodness!
Can you believe that guy actually started singing at the beginning, took a phone call in the middle, and just no-sold the whole time?
Am I surprised and dismayed? Not really.
Hey, I mean, not all of us can find love up against a taco truck. You know what I mean?
It's a very true statement.
Folks, tomorrow night we've got primetime with all the associates. We're going to be doing primetime on Saturday nights now. Associates like Josh Chernoff. We've got Andrew Baydala. We've got Jason Solomon. And Linda Kay joining us as well. So we've got the associates joining Dave and Damien every weekend. Saturdays, primetime. Make sure you're checking that out on all the social media outlets. So for the man they call Matthew Thomas, it's your boy, the man they call Meathead. Thank you for stopping by. So long, everyone.